Hi again, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the iPower Winning Edge. I'm Joe Moore. Well, the iPower Dash Series is underway now. The first race several weeks ago now at Daytona, the iPower Dash 150. And now things have quieted down a little bit. The teams have a chance to kind of regroup and get ready for the regular season, which continues in April at Hickory Motor Speedway. We'll talk about that event in upcoming editions of the show. First, though, let's look back at race number 1 in the 2004 season. As a matter of fact, race number 1 ever, the iPower Dash 150 at Daytona.
The iPower Dash Series, under new ownership and with a few interesting changes, made its series debut at Daytona International Speedway during Speed Weeks. National TV audience, as well as thousands of spectators, were given a spectacular show. The race got underway with Danny Bagwell on the pole, although he was second in qualifying. He was there because pole sitter Eric Wilson had to go to the rear of the field for failing a post-qualifying inspection. After early side-by-side racing, a pack of 6 cars led by Jason York in the Rocket broke away from the field. As the field approached 10 laps, there were 2 5-car breakaway groups leading the rest of the cars. When the yellow flag came out after Tony Billings and Bill Clevenger in his Max Speed machine got together in turn 3. Danny Keaton also suffered damage in that wreck, bringing his car and many of the other competitors into the pits. Another incident during that same caution brought out the red flag, bringing all the cars to pit road. When green flag racing resumed in the now shortened iPower Dash 150, Danny Bagwell powered his machine to the front to take the checkered flag after 45 laps of racing, putting the first iPower Dash event into the history books.
Thanks, Mike. So the season off to a great start for Danny Bagwell. Not so great for some of the other competitors. But again, we've got plenty of time to go in this 2004 season. Now, coming up on the iPower Winning Edge, we'll talk about the cars that are used in the iPower Dash Series and show you what kind of inspection process they go through each week. Stay with us on this week's edition of the iPower Edge. Welcome back to the iPower Winning Edge. I'm Joe Moore. Time now to find out what kind of cars run regularly in the iPower Dash Series. It's a little bit of everything that you see on the highway, but the smaller cars, V6 engines, some foreign cars as well. Of course, Toyota's been there for several years now. Let's find out more about the cars that compete in the iPower Dash Series. Here's Tiffany Ricardo.
Joe, the iPower Dash Series is running 4 different types of cars this year: the Mercurys, the Pontiacs, the Toyotas, and the Fords. Now, the crew chief of this Ford is Billy Owen. This is the Max Speed number 15 car driven by Bill Clevenger. And Billy Owen says basically what these cars are is just a scaled-down version of a NASCAR Nextel Cup car. These cars, the new iPower Dash Series cars, have been described as kind of a scaled-down version of a Nextel Cup car. Is that the case?
Yeah, pretty much. They have the same type bodies, all hand-fabricated bodies. They're a little lighter than the Nextel cars by about 800 pounds. They run the bi-sply tires, which is kind of similar, but pretty good tire. And overall, it is just a downscaled Nextel Cup Series car.
Now, are these cars easier to set up for a speedway, a super speedway like Daytona, or do you feel more comfortable in places like South Boston short tracks like that?
Well, it's just, different teams have different setups, and I mean, it's not really any harder to set up for a speedway than it is a short track. You just use a different spring combination. You got to use a lot stiffer springs here because of the banking, and you use a little different car. You use a car for downforce at the shorter tracks, and you use a car that's built mainly just for straight-out speed at the big tracks. Yeah, the bi-sply tires, you can play a lot with the stagger. You can change your stagger on the car, whereas the radial tires, the stagger's built into it, so you can't really change it. The bi-sply tires are a little more forgiving. As far as on the racetrack, they have real good grip, and the radials are just not as forgiving as the bi-splies most of the time.
Now, have you ever driven one of these yourself?
No, never been able to afford to drive one myself. I just always started turning wrenches on them, and that's all I've been able to do. That's all I really want to do.
What is your background? How long have you been in this whole racing sport?
I started out, my dad's worked in the Winston Cup Series for several years, and we worked at the Busch Series for a few years, and they just kind of dropped back to this just because it's more laid back and easy going, and just a lot more family-like type racing.
What do you think of the whole IPower guys coming in? What have been the changes for you, and do you think it's going to be a good thing for the series?
I think it'll be a great thing for the series. I really like the names and all they've got going on. It's something real different. So, you know, hopefully they can get the word out there and get everybody excited about it and it'll work out real good.
So that's the kind of cars that run weekly in the IPower Dash Series, but they don't come to the racetrack ready to go. They have to go through the room of doom. It's inspection time. Tiffany?
And this is the inspection or the tech line in the IPower Dash Series garage. These guys spend a lot of time pushing these cars through this line over and over again from the time they get here until after the race. They got to have inspections before qualifying, after qualifying, before the race, and of course after the race to make sure nobody has an unfair advantage. Now the thing you want to avoid is being in here more than once, because if you have to come back through inspection, that means the officials have found something wrong.
Well, when they come through for qualifying or before the race, we go on the far side there. We have the height bar, the ride height, frame height, the roof height on the car, checking tread width. They'll come around and come across the scales here, check for the weight of the car, the right side weight distribution. They'll be impounded at that time and then lined up for whatever it happens to be at that time. Well, when they first get here in the beginning of the week, they do a safety inspection. It's a lot more detailed the first day. And then before qualifying, they run through this line here, and then again before the race. And then like the top 5 after qualifying will come through also. Most of the stuff down here has to do with aerodynamics, and that's the main thing here, and we keep a real tight deal on the restrictor plates too, is really watch after that. Basically, Joe, we left the rules as they were, trying to keep where the guys could use the cars they had last year without a lot of expense as far as change. Really, all most of it has actually stayed the same. The biggest difference you'll see this year is the graphics and the way the cars look. And so basically, we just wanted to save the competitors money and let them use what they had. Everybody seems to be real receptive to it. It's these type cars, they can't use them anywhere else in another series or anything. So everybody wants to see it go, and everybody wants to race, and they've got a lot of money and time and effort invested in these cars, and so it's been real good. It's real. Everybody's got like a new start attitude, and it's real good. Everything's great. About 5 years ago, actually the manufacturers making the 4-cylinder blocks stopped making those, so we knew we were going to have to do something. So we went with a V6 engine. It's pretty much I wouldn't call it a spec engine, but the way the rules are written, we want them to be a good longevity with the engine where they could use it most of the season without a lot of work, and a cost factor. So all the cars now are V6 engines. These engines here have a very good longevity, and it's a completely different block and everything from what they were using. Like I said, we were looking at a cost and longevity thing for the competitors. And a lot of the guys we assembled for this are new to this series, but they're experienced in racing, and some of the guys know about the dash. So my assistant, Richard Mash, he was the championship crew chief in the Dash Series 15 years, so it's hard to get anything by Richard.
When we come back on this week's edition of the IPower Winning Edge, we'll show you some of those names and explain how they came about. Stay with us. There's a lot of exciting things going on this year in the IPower Dash Series. One of the most exciting things that people notice right away is instead of big numbers on the sides of the cars, it's big names, and some interesting names.
Thought that this may work, may not work, but you know, they're taking a new marketing angle at it, and I want the series to survive, and I want to participate in it. So, you know, we were sitting around the garage trying to come up with a name, and I told the guys, I said, guys, my pocket's getting kind of empty. We don't have a corporate sponsor or anything, so that became the name of the car, Empty Pocket.
Yeah, I live up in New York. It snows a lot. I figured it's kind of appropriate. I try to come down here and run with all the Southern guys, so that way they'll all remember me. Well, I thought about the Damn Yankee and a couple other things, but this was the most appropriate thing that we could put on it.
Well, that actually goes along with our sponsors, the American Car Care Centers. Their mascot is the Eagle, and it goes along with Terry's Tire Town.
Really, we tried to tie it in with our sponsor. Ward Burton come on and brought his Wildlife Foundation on for this race, and I didn't want to, I wanted to tie it into my sponsor somehow, so I thought the Rifleman was a pretty good fit.
Well, we kicked it around, and you want something kind of catchy, we decided Magnum 44. The car number has always been 44, and the Magnum 44 is shoot 'em dead.
Our sponsor, that's kind of a word that he uses all the time, joking around. So when he looks at it, he's like, hey, Skid, come here. So we just figured that was a good name for the car and be real recognizable for him and for everybody back at home.
That's something that Robert came up with. I think it's a nickname he actually had back when he was doing some short track racing with the late model cars at Hickory Motor Speedway. And that's kind of how we came up with the Blade name for this car.
The name of our car is Patriot, and I left that kind of up to my mother and my wife, and they said that kind of fit my image. I mean, I've always been a big supporter of the American flag, and just, you know, I like what it stands for. I mean, like any other American, and that's just kind of how it came up. They said it fit my image, and you know, like I said, I've always liked the American flag, so they just kind of displayed it on the car, and I think it looks real nice.
I was thinking something fast, something edgy, and I thought of maximum speed. So I thought with the kids and everything, I wanted to do something that they could relate to and give them a positive image to look for. And so I shortened it up, gave it max speed, and then I came up with the idea, why not give the kids something to relate to. I mean, that's what the series is looking to do, is promote it towards kids. And so I came up with max speed, and then a friend of mine threw his character down inside the car, max speed.
The names, and in some cases, characters on the cars. Other great names, the ever-popular Thunder Puppy. There's Bad to the Bone. Diablo in the house. The Dixie Hummingbird. That sounds nice. Maximum. There's Nitro. Slingshot sounds good. And don't forget Smokey.
It's very family-based. My crew chief is my mom, you know, the car chief is my father, and it's that way 90% of the people in this series. You know, it's all family-based, so everybody gets along really well.
We got a lot of good close friends working on the race car. We've got 2 full-time employees for our team, and a lot of folks don't have any full-time people. And it's just an out effort. My family's with me. Our kids sacrifice to come down here and let us live our dream, really, is what we call it. I moved from Topeka, Kansas in 1987 to Charlotte, North Carolina to learn to race, to be racing, involved in racing. And fortunately, I've been able to do that. Our business has been successful, and we're able to come to Daytona. When I first came here in '99, it was in awe. I was like, man, look at that place.
Everybody says they'd like to be in Nextel Cup or Winston Cup or whatever. But, you know, you got to be realistic, and there's only a few little glimpse of a shot of you ever making it. So there's so many talented drivers out there. But, you know, right now I'm content with driving in the Craftsman Truck Series and doing the IPower deal. And, you know, if we can continue to do that and have some success, I think it'll speak for itself. You know, they took a big task. They jumped out of NASCAR's banner. That was kind of the deal that pushed this series for so many years, but they got a unique approach, and they got Humpy Wheeler and those guys kind of backing them up. So, you know, they're going for a different mark, and I think it can be done. I really do. It just might take a while to catch on, but all in all, I think they really got a good approach, and, you know, with the big tracks, it's such a draw. You know, that's really what's going to bring the racers out, and whether they got graphics on the side of the cars or numbers or whatever it may be, I think it'll, as long as the racing's good and, the competitive competition's good, I think it'll do really well.
Welcome back to the iPower Winning Edge. I'm Joe Moore. Glad you could join us this week talking about the iPower Dash Series. What was known as a Goody's Dash Series for some 29 years has a whole new future now, and a lot of changes. We talked about the names on the sides of the cars. Also a different type of qualifying session, the Jam Session, first introduced at Daytona several weeks ago. We went to Randy Claypool to find out what it's all about and how it works.
The partnership here with iPower Racing, Buck Parker, Tom Deary, and myself, we're out of the box. You know, we really took a hard look at what the Dash Series offered. It's been a unique series since it started back in 1975. It has a lot of very unique qualities. So we decided to build upon that foundation and look to the future and see what else we could change to break that cookie-cutter image. You know, when you look on TV or watch a race, everything seems to be the same. You know, you've got cars, you've got with numbers going round and round and round and round. So we said, what can we do with our series to give the media, to give the fans something different to talk about. So again, we changed the numbers on the car. We put names on the car, on the side of the cars. We got to thinking about qualifying here at Daytona, and honestly, it used to last 2.5 to 3 hours. And how exciting is qualifying? You know, you sit there and watch cars go around lap after lap by themselves. We thought if the fans would come, we'd give them a little bit of a show. We'd allow the drivers to also get a little bit more practice with the draft. So we seeded the field with this jam session. We basically went down the practice times and we came up with a formula that put them in groups of 5. We sent them off of pit road in 4-second intervals with 5 cars being on the track at one time. And we allowed them to run 3 times past the starter stand. And they had the option to either go it alone or, you know, they could lag up, mix it up a little bit, and get into a draft. And we had a lot of teams that got into 2- and 3-car drafts. And not only did that help raise the speed of it, because the pull speed was up in the 167 range, which normally we're around 165. And we also want the fans to know that our cars are 6 cylinders and restricted and about 1,000 pounds lighter than a Cup car, but we're really only right about 20 miles an hour difference, and that's pretty impressive. So it was just out of the box. It was a chance to do something different and to get people talking about the Dash Series. We will not do it everywhere. We'll always refer to it as a jam session, most likely, again, because it's something new. But we will explore other options at all of the tracks that we go to. We'll probably come up with a format. It may be what we've done historically. It may be something a little bit different from track to track. As we're getting with these tracks, we're asking that track, what would you like us to do? You know, to give your fans a different form of entertainment, to break that cookie cutter mold. So we're allowing the promoters to even give some input on what they'd like to see us do. But of course, we make the final decision. But we are exploring other options of what we can do that breaks that cookie cutter mold. You know, people react to change in different ways, and most of them wanted to stick with the traditional way. And it's ironic, the ones that talk the most about wanting to go it alone and please give us that 4-second spread, they're the ones that jumped right out there and did the drafting from the very beginning. Afterwards, they saw where we were going with that. You know, really their big concern was, in our series, a lot of them don't have backup cars, so their concern was that if they wrecked, they didn't have a backup car to go to. So aside from that, I told them, you be professional, use your heads, and make the best of this, put on a show for the fans. And it really turned out well, and their response after was tremendous. They came back with ideas of how we can even make it better next time, but they liked that format. Oh, absolutely. Of course, as we're driving around, from every other garage, from every other series, we've had officials, we've had fans, we've had people that we know that have all come up to us and wanted a further explanation as to how we came up with the idea, just like you're asking, to do it the way we did. And they all, as they walk away, the same response was, well, maybe somebody else will take a good look at that.
The jam session. It's a different way to qualify. For some drivers, they like it. Other drivers aren't too sure. There's certainly varying opinions about this way of qualifying for a race.
I'm gonna tell you, that jam session was jamming. That was a blast. It's something new and different. Had a good car. Scotty Weaver and myself worked together and actually sat on the stop there for a little while.
I kind of liked it, we didn't really get a good group to go with. We didn't qualify, or we didn't practice that well in pre-qualifying practice, and so that kind of got us with a not so good group, not with all the good fast cars, and that kind of hurt us. But it's fair for everybody, I think, and it's a different look, it's a different way of doing it, and I think it's kind of exciting.
The qualifying jam session they did, it's got everybody talking in the garage, whether it's good or bad, I don't know, but I've been pretty impressed with it so far. They got a little, few bugs to work out here and there, but for the massive project they had to undertake, I thought they've handled it pretty well.
Another part of the IPower Dash Series this year is the Mean Miatas, and they're about to be let loose at New Smyrna Speedway. Their first race is Saturday, March 13th. Here's Buddy Pittman with a look.
As the season progresses, the Dash Series will introduce an additional class of racing, the Mean Miatas. That's right, the Mazda Miata. Recently at New Smyrna Speedway, the Mean Miatas got an oval track test. The Miatas are raced regularly in SCCA road course racing, but IPower Racing will unleash the Miatas on oval tracks, and all indications are it will be quite exciting.
taking a Mazda Miata, a Japanese car, a road racing car, and crossing over to circle track racing, we're going to have some interesting things going on. We're definitely going to turn some heads.
I mean, anybody not wanting to get into it would be crazy. You know, it's a lot of fun. It's what racing's about.
One of the guys doing the testing is Peter Keene. He will be the competition director for the new Miata series.
Well, the class has exploded in road racing, and what a natural progression to just go ahead and go to go circle track racing with it. And there's plenty of cars out there, and the guys are wild. You know, they're going to eat this up.
Needless to say, Keene loved taking the Miatas out for an oval track shakedown.
It's still, you know, it's fun to be back out there, and that's just what we do. You know, I have that drive to just get back in there. So it's something I have to do, I guess.
If you'd like to know more about the IPower Dash Series and the Mean Miatas, check out our website. Anytime, it's there for you at iPowerRacing.com. More of today's show after this. One thing a little different about the IPower Dash Series, there's a lot of time in between races, particularly at the first of the season. Let's face it, it's a brand new series of racing. More events are going to be added, hopefully as many as 28 in a season. But we have a while to wait before race number 2, which is at Hickory Motor Speedway, the 1st of April. So on next week's show, and for the next few weeks as a matter of fact, we'll have time to take you behind the scenes and introduce you to some of the drivers and team members as they prepare for their full season in the IPower Dash Series. Next week, we'll take you inside the house of a family of 3, all who have made their name well known in the IPower Dash Series, and we'll talk about the schedule and how it may expand in future years. Hope you can join us next week on our next edition of the IPower Winning Edge. For Tiffany Ricardo, I'm Joe Moore.